Hey,
Hi, Heather. How are you?
good. How are you, Mike?
Oh, I'm fine. I had to kind of rush home to get here on time, but I'm otherwise fine.
Well, really, really good to see you.
Nice to see you too. I love the earrings, love the necklace.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So, what's new with you?
Not too much. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have many people today, given everything that happened yesterday and is probably still happening today.
Yeah.
So if anyone's watching this way in the future, today is January 7th, 2021, and I think that yesterday will go down as a day in infamy in our US history.
Yep. That's going to be something your grandkids are going to be asking you about.
Hopefully, I hope they will care. Um, yeah, let me, yeah, so I don't like to talk about politics, but
Do we have any trivia for today?
we have Gilligan's Island trivia.
Yes. Awesome.
So let's see. Okay, I'm glad we have some people in the audience here.
Yep.
Um, Hi, audience. Thank you for coming.
Good to see everyone.
Yep. Well, why don't we start with some audience questions? I always like to reward people for getting here early.
Sounds good. Well, our very first question of the day we got at 1:46 p.m. and this is from Ari. Last time you did not talk enough or did not have enough time to talk about the Monty Hall three doors problem. Would you please give us your insight and opinion on that?
Okay, I've talked about this a lot. I get asked about it all the time. So here's the way the question should be asked. So let's say that you have a game show and there are three doors, and one door will reveal a car and two doors will reveal a goat. And the way this game has been played for many years is the contestant will pick a door, and then the host will always offer a choice to switch to another door. The question is, let me make sure I have this right. You pick a door. No, I told it wrong. The contestant picks a door. Then the host will open an empty door. And given that, one of the two doors with a goat. And given that there are two doors with a goat, the host can always do this. So the host says, oh, well, you didn't pick this door. Let's see what's behind it. And then he reveals a goat. And he always does this. There's never a car behind the door that the host opens because the host knows where the car is. So then the host will say, do you want to switch to the other unopened door? The question is, should the player switch? Audience, what is the answer? Let's see what you say. So you just answer yes if you would switch, and no if you would not, and say something like 50-50 if it doesn't matter. Do you have an opinion, Heather?
I would not switch. If I pick a door, that's what I pick, and I'm not going to second guess myself.
Okay, they say that in general, you should trust your instincts. Like if you're taking a multiple choice test and you're not sure, but like you think the answer is, say, C. Mm-hmm. And then you're probably going to think, well, I probably don't know. And you'll probably talk yourself out of it and pick something else. No, don't do that. You should trust your instincts in that kind of situation. But here, you have no information at all. At the beginning of the game, every door had a 1 in 3 chance. But does the fact that the host opens a door change the probabilities? So let's see what the audience says.
So we have a Ronaldo. I want to say Ronaldo.
Says yes.
He said switch.
Yes. Ronaldo W says yes again. Tom H says yes. I Love 2000 says no. Gary Ho says yes, and he does stick to the same pattern always. And Tom Sivert says yes. So everyone who said yes is correct.
Oh.
And the reason is a little hard to just say without writing down anything.
Okay.
But, okay, let me try to put it this way. Let's say that you did pick the car, then what the host would, and you're going to pick the car 1 out of 3 times. Then what the host will do, so let's say your strategy is to just stick with your original choice like you would do, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Your chances of picking the car are 1 in 3. Mm-hmm. And then the host will open up an empty door, and which he can do because there's 2 to choose from. And then if you don't switch, you're going to get the car. You're going to get that car 1 out of 3 times. But let's say that your strategy is to switch. Then if you pick the car, he opens the door, and then you will switch and you will get a goat. That will happen 1 out of 3 times. But the other 2/3 of the time, when you did not pick the car initially, the host will reveal the other goat, meaning that if you switch, that the car must be behind the other door. So if you have a strategy of saying no, then your chances of getting the car are 1 in 3. And if you have a strategy of switching, then your chances are 2 out of 3. Now, let me say that this question was once asked of Marilyn Voss Savant in the Ask Marilyn column. And she was right. She was right. She was right. She was right. And I have to emphasize this because people argue about whether or not her answer was right. But after she gave her answer, maybe it could have been worded a little bit better, but she got flooded by lots of statistics professors saying she was wrong. And the reason they felt so strongly about it was there was a misunderstanding in the way the question was asked of her. Is it did not say, as I just said, that this game has been played, for years and years and years, and the host always reveals a goat. That wasn't really emphasized in the way the question was originally asked. Nevertheless, it was said. And when people wrote to say that Marilyn was wrong, they didn't take under consideration the host's behavior. So it's really important then when this question gets asked, that it gets asked correctly. So there's my answer to that. Does anyone have any questions about it?
If you guys do, put it in the chat and we will get to that. Do you want to do the Gilligan's Island trivia while we're...
Yes. So this was in my newsletter today. So I'm going to ask that anyone who already read it abstain from playing. But let me open up another window here. All right. So as we know, this is the wrong one. As we know, Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann, just died. We lost her. And this means something to me because I was born in 1965, and when I was between the ages of, 8 and 15, Gilligan's Island was hot in the reruns, and it was in syndication, and it was on all the time. And it's not like there were tons of channels at the time to choose from. So I must have watched every episode of Gilligan's Island like 500 times.
Nice.
And so I think any male born around my age is going to say, I know what you're talking about, Wiz, so did I. So Gilligan's Island means a lot to me. And yes, it's easy to throw stones at the show, but, I liked it probably at an average age of 11 or 12. And I just love that show. I make no apologies. And I love Dawn Wells, and I love Mary Ann. And I would take Mary Ann over Ginger any day of the week. So it touches my heart that we lost Mary Ann. She is the 6th of 7 cast members to leave us, leaving only Ginger or Tina Louise in the Gilligan's Island tontine. So that said, I thought we would remember Don Wells / Marianne with a little bit of Gilligan's Island trivia. That said, lots of times when people ask this, they start with, what are the full names of the characters? For example, Gilligan was Gilligan's last name. What was his first name?
Oh.
Anyone? Peanut Gallery?
So if you guys know, put it in the chat and we will go through those in 1 second. And we have an answer to your previous question. Skill and Luck says yes. Pete says I agree. And Skill and Luck says yes as well.
I'm glad we have such an intelligent audience. So you are all right.
Okay, shall we go on to the next question while we're waiting for the trivia to come in?
Yes.
Cool. So David wants to know what the difference is between an independent host versus a casino host.
Good question. So casino hosts will only work with one casino. For example, a Mandalay Bay host only handles customers of the Mandalay Bay. And it's not like they work for the Mandalay Bay. They probably have, I've never been a host, but I believe that they have a contract kind of like based on commissions, where that host will get compensated according to the value of that player. And the way they evaluate the value of that player is they look at what they play, how much they bet, how much time they play, and then they take out of that, and then they apply that to the house edge and say, okay, based on all this play, we estimate that Heather is worth to us, say $25,000 every day she shows up. Then they might say, well, Heather asks for $8,000 worth of comps every time she shows up. So they might say, well, we're not going to give her the whole $25,000 back. Let's say that we give back 40% of that. So that would be $10,000. But you're already asking for $8,000. So they might say that there's only $2,000 left in the value of this player, and then they would give some of that to the host. So the host is incentivized to make players play and to give them as little as possible. And that's going to be what the host's compensation is based on. So the host has kind of a funny motivation system. Are they on the casino side or are they on the player side? Well, they want the player to play as much as possible, which is good for the casino. So I guess, they are, they pretty much are on the casino side, but nevertheless, they will look for any way they can to reward the player without it kind of showing up on the system. And, and they definitely want the player to be happy. So, so they will try to find ways to work the system to make the player look like a more valuable player than they really are. So that's like how did you put it? Like an in-house host. And there's also independent hosts, which do the same job, but they're not tied to one casino. So, and independent hosts tend to only work with like pretty big players. So if there was a player that was worth, say, probably at least $25,000 every time they show up, and this particular player kind of likes to float around, then he might get an independent host. And the arrangement is he tells the host, find me whoever is going to give me the most, and I'll play there. And the host might, throw it out there and to cruise ships and casinos in the Caribbean and wherever, and say, I've got this player, and he plays baccarat at an average bet of $5,000 in 8 hours a day, and blah blah blah, and he's asking for this. Will you give it to him? And so the host is kind of like an independent agent between the player and the casino. So and this host is again rewarded in the same way according to the value of the player. So yeah, that's basically the difference. Is yeah, very simply, the independent host will represent lots of different casinos, and they don't have allegiance to any player or any casino. They're basically just a broker or an agent, where an in-house host only represents the one casino. But I also might add that hosts that work for a particular casino are always bouncing around. And lots of times, if they say switch from the Venetian to the Wynn, they're gonna bring their little book with them of all their Venetian players and say, come on over to the Wynn. They'll give you even more.
Yep.
So that's my answer.
That's pretty good advice.
Yeah, thanks.
And we have some answers to your trivia question. I like this one. Is his name Little Buddy?
That is more of like the term of endearment.
I think he was just joking. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
How about Cosmo?
No, that's the first name of Kramer on Seinfeld. Okay. Cosmo Kramer.
Would it be Willie?
Yes, Willie Gilligan. Very good, Ton Savard.
Woo! Nice. Awesome.
Okay, let's ask the next question. What is the real name of the skipper?
Oh, cool. So if you guys know, put it in the chat and we will get to it right after this question. So our next question comes from Skill and Luck, and they're asking if you could pretty much tell everything you possibly know, who, what, where, when, why, how, everything, about put bets in craps.
Okay, there's not a whole lot to say. So as you know, that an odds bet has to be made after a pass or a come bet. But there's a way you can do that without the pass or the come bet, and that's called a put bet. For example, let's say that the come out roll is an 8 and you immediately want to cover all the numbers. You can, and let's say you want to cover the 6 just for the sake of example, and it's 3, 4, 5 times odds. You can say, okay, here is my $600 bet. 100 of it is going to be a come bet, and 500 is going to be odds on that 6. That is allowed. And the reason it's allowed is while you have no house advantage on the odds portion of it, you're giving up a house advantage on the come bet portion of that. So as long as the casino has a house advantage on part of that, at least, then they are happy. So in terms of gameplay, it works exactly like a place bet. And depending upon how much odds you're allowed to take, they can offer a lower house advantage than making place bets. So yeah, put bets. I mean, I seldom see them at the table. But and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but yeah, again, they work like place bets, but yeah, like I said, they're divided into 2 parts between a come bet and the odds.
Okay.
Now, I don't recommend them. I mean, they're certainly much better than a lot of other bets on the table, including everything in the middle, but I like to get my full value out of the first roll of a come bet or a pass line bet, because you do have that advantage. You do have twice as much of a chance of winning as losing on that roll. So why give that up? Nevertheless, some people are impatient and want to cover all the numbers immediately. So that gives them what they want. But, patience is rewarded in every casino game. Yeah. So not that anyone asked, but I recommend making only line bets, meaning pass, don't pass, come and don't come, and back them up with the odds and avoid everything else.
Sounds pretty good.
Okay, there's my answer. And Alan Hale, I see Pete Mastro said, was the name of the actor. I'm looking for the character's name on the show.
Was it Captain Morgan?
Nope.
How about William?
Nope.
And Jonas?
Jonas was the character's real first name. So
Okay.
half credit there to Todd Savard. But what was Jonas's last name?
Ooh. Okay, so that's all of the answers we have for that trivia
I
question.
guess then I'm going to give Todd half credit, and his last name was Grumby. Jonas Grumby was the skipper's name on the show.
That sounds like such a fake name, like Grumpy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what
Okay.
is the next trivia question?
The next one. Okay, what was Marianne's last name?
The character or the actor?
Yeah, the character.
Okay, so if you guys know, put it in the chat and we will get to it right after this question. Now, this next question is a little more personal. Are you feeling up to taking it?
Let me get a drink of water.
Okay, sounds good.
And I don't say that I'll answer it, but I will entertain it.
Okay, well, here is the question. I assume you are naturally very analytical at everything. Do you ever get accused of lacking empathy in your personal life as a result?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. Yeah, empathy is not my strong part. And for those who don't understand what empathy means, like what is the difference between sympathy and empathy? Like, let's say that you were to say, Mike, I have cancer. Since I've never had that, I might be sympathetic to you and I might say, I'm sorry to hear that. But if I had cancer and survived it, or even still have it, then I could say, I really feel what you're going through, and having walked in your footsteps already. And it's like a deeper sense of sorrow because you can feel your pain better.
Yeah, so you connect with that.
That's the difference. And
that's a really good way to describe it, a really good way to explain it.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I admit that empathy is not one of my strong points. I would like to think that I'm a nice person.
You are.
But I have a hard time picking up when other people are, shall we say, feeling pain or what their emotions are. I don't know what to say. It's not one of my strong suits. It's not that I don't care, but yeah, but some people say, Mike, can't you be more empathetic? So,
it's the mathematical mind. I'm blaming it on the mathematical mind.
So do I.
Okay, so we have an answer to your trivia question. Is it Summer?
Yes, it's Marianne Summers, plural.
Summers, okay.
But I will give you credit, Mo the cat. Good and nice to see you again.
Mo the cat got Summers. He did a correction, so.
Okay.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, what's the next trivia question?
Well, keeping on with that theme, what was the professor's full name?
Okay, so if you guys know the answer to that, put it in the chat. And while we are waiting, this is more of a comment than a question. Ian says, I slightly disagree with what we were talking about before, the MH being simply the host's behavior. In my opinion, it's the host's knowledge that impacts the results. Of course, the knowledge drove the behavior. What do you think?
I'm not sure I see the point. I don't see anything that I disagree with him about. In my opinion, the host's knowledge that impacted the results. Of course, that knowledge drove the behavior. I agree with you 100%. So I guess I don't understand your question or point.
There's no question. It was just a statement and you agree with it. So you got it. You're good.
Okay.
No question. Okay, so next one is a question. And this is from it looks like I love, but it's I of. My casino host at Caesars never gives me any comps and saying that I did very well. Is the comps based on losses only?
Okay, that's a good question. And the easy answer is that your comps are based on a combination of your play and your win or loss. And casinos generally, at least they should care more about the play than the win or loss. But when they actually look at their computer and I Love 2000 says, please give me dinner to your best restaurant, and they'll say, well, you already won $10,000 from us. Can't you use some of that money to buy it? That's kind of how they feel, like you're double dipping.
Mm.
And if I ran a casino, I would say, thank you so much for your action, enjoy your money, and also enjoy this free dinner, because I would want you to come back and be happy to come back. But yeah, nevertheless, the way when I was a bigger player and I would ask for something, if I had been doing well, my chances of getting it would often not be very good, because they would often make a comment like I just said, like, you won all this money, why do you need anything else? Aren't you happy? But if you lost a lot, then players will play the sympathy card. Like, I just lost $25,000. Can you give me a $500 dinner, for crying out loud? So so the casinos take both things into consideration.
Is this
But in general, I know that good players, in terms of winning or not losing much, do not get treated as well.
Now, I know that comps were treated a lot differently in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Would it be the same back then too, where they would only give comps on your losses, or would they give comps depending on who you were? Like, if you're a big name, you automatically
yeah. Back then, casinos were not so electronic, and they knew faces, and there were personal relationships.
Yeah.
So if player X was just like a known good player, there were no player cards. He would just ask whatever floorman was on duty. He would say, "Hey, can I go to the top of the top of the Tower Steakhouse or whatever? Here you go. Bon appetit."
Just a quick.
And I kind of like that. I started playing in the mid 80s when there was still some of that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that players liked it, but it doesn't go over very well in terms of the way corporations think, is they want every decision to be justified mathematically.
A quick anecdote to add to that story is I knew a floor supervisor who was old school. So he had like a little black book of all the players. And if a player came up to his table that he knew, he would look in the black book and see, oh, this guy likes this cigarettes. And then he would automatically comp the guy cigarettes as soon as he walked up to the table, because it was about customer service. It wasn't about the money part of it.
But that's a great touch that he would have in his little notebook, that that Heather likes Winston's, and to actually give you a pack. Hey, Heather, do you need some smokes? And it's your brand. That is a really nice personal touch.
Yeah.
Which you don't see anymore.
You don't. And he was really good at what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have one answer to your trivia question. Is it Roy Hinckley?
Yes.
Sweet.
And by the way, look at Todd's cat there. My older daughter just adopted a cat.
Oh, cool.
So that kind of makes me kind of like a cat grandfather. and her cat looks like Todd's cat there.
That's awesome. Okay, so what is our next Gilligan's Island trivia question?
All right. Okay. The theme song changed the words a little bit between the first and second season. How was the theme song changed?
Ooh, good question. So if you guys know the answer, put it in the chat and we'll go over it. Before we go on to our next casino question, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Did you ever play Gilligan's Island on Nintendo?
I didn't even know there was such a game.
Yeah, you could play a Nintendo game, Gilligan's Island, and I bring it up because I remember I didn't watch Gilligan's Island. I was introduced to Gilligan's Island through this Nintendo game, and then I watched the TV show after I played the video game.
What was the object of the game?
To find Marianne or Ginger or both of them, you had to go around. Oh, it was all of them. All of them were captured or something. Mm-hmm. And you were Gilligan, and you had to go around the island. And it was actually pretty fun for a Nintendo game. You had to go around to different areas, complete the areas, and then you would save one member. So you had to save all the members to beat the game. Yeah. Okay, so on to the casino question, because I know that's what people are here for. Paul says, I get that side bets, long shots, and slots carry a high house edge compared to the bets that pay 1-1. But wouldn't you agree that you are more likely to come away with a big win? And by the way, pointing out that there is no Russian blackjack.
All right. If you were, how shall I put this? If you were to have a short sitting, your chances of coming away with a big win, yes, would be more with a long shot kind of a game. Mm-hmm. However, your chances of a big loss are also a lot more. And with a game like blackjack, a lot of the time you're just, kind of close to where you started. And that makes for good longevity. It gives you more ammunition for the next sitting. And furthermore, if you like volatility, if you like that big chance at a big win, here's what I would do. Sometimes, and you don't need to do this all the time, is you make a bet and you say that I am going to keep parlaying any winnings, say up to 5 times or until I lose. So if you're playing an even money game and you get that win 5 times in a row, then you're going to have 32 times your initial bet. And that's probably going to make you happy. But let's say that 32 doesn't do it for you. Let's say it takes 128. Then you're going to need to get 7 wins in a row. So there's a way you can get volatility in a even money game by parlaying your bets. So that's what I would recommend doing.
Okay.
If you are a volatility lover.
Sounds good. Okay, so do you want to recap real quick what that Gilligan's Island trivia question is? And I think we have 2 answers to that.
Okay, so the question was, they changed the theme song between the first and the second season. How did they change it?
Did they add the Professor and Marianne?
Yes, exactly. Match 52. Woo. You are exactly right. So in the very first season, the very end of the song where they introduced all the castaways, they said, with Gilligan, the skipper to blah, 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 the movie star, and the rest. And then I guess that from what I hear was that the actors who played Marianne and the professor, who were the rest, didn't like getting unequal billing. So instead of saying the rest, they changed it to the Professor and Marianne here on Gilligan's Isle.
Nice.
Yep.
They added everyone.
Yep.
Cool. So what is our next trivia question? By the way, just quick shout out. Hey, Match 52. What is our next trivia question?
Okay. Okay, what are the names of the 3 Gilligan's Island movies?
Ooh, so if you know the answer to that, put it in the chat, and we will get to it right after this question.
And by the way, there are some forum questions I should get to at some point.
You want to ask one of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let me get to them. Okay, I'm going to kind of do these backwards. Smooth Graph asks, and it happens to be a Gilligan's Island question, what is the name of the accent that Mr. and Mrs. Howell have?
We could have used this as a trivia question.
Right, and I don't know that his answer is right, but he says that they have a mid-Atlantic accent. And there is such a thing. Like when I lived in Baltimore, there was they had their own accent that was a little bit Southern-like, but not as pronounced, and it was a little bit slow and nasal. And you could just tell, like, the real old-time Baltimore people, that they had this accent. And it was almost like you could tell, if someone was like a true Baltimorean, if they had this accent. So maybe that's what he's referring to. Personally, I don't really detect that much of an accent with Mr. and Mrs. Howell. But anyway, that's a question. So
Okay.
ask another one.
While you're doing that, Gary says, I heard the original version had different castaways, and during the course of the show, they settled on the professor and Marianne.
Okay. So Gary, good question. So here's the way the show actually worked, is they made a pilot, and a pilot meaning like the first episode of a show. And oftentimes the pilot is longer than 30 minutes. It might be an entire movie. So they did the pilot without even knowing if it was going to ever get televised. So lots of times you do a pilot and then you test it out with the network executives and test audiences to see how much they like it. And if they liked it, then you keep doing the show. And if they don't, then you probably just never air the pilot at all and it dies a quiet death. So what happened with Gilligan's Island is they did a pilot, and the pilot had different characters. Like it had two secretaries, and it had some different actors and actresses. And there was a big scene that took place in Hawaii when they were packing for the cruise. And so they did that whole pilot, and then they showed it to the network executives. And to make kind of a long story short, the executives said, okay, we'll take the show. We're not really crazy about it, but we didn't like the pilot. Like, I think you should get rid of the secretaries and have fewer people. And there was also a kid. Was that addressed in the question? Yeah, the original pilot had a kid on it. And so anyway, I think this was an ABC show, I think. So they said, yeah, we'll take up the show because, we have some free space on our schedule, basically, and we need to fill it with something. But forget that pilot, we don't like it. So that's why on the very first episode of Gilligan's Island is right after they get shipwrecked. You never see them in Hawaii. And so yeah, that's absolutely true that the show started, the unseen pilot had different characters on it. And it wasn't until fairly recently, like I think in the 90s, did somebody even find the pilot and it came out. And you can see it on YouTube if you wish. And it's in black and white. And that is about as far as I can take that topic. But I've been meaning to rewatch the pilot. I haven't seen it in a long time.
That's really cool. I got to go check that out. I want to go see that now.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer to your trivia question,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about accents, right?
We already talked about that, but if anyone has something to say about it. But the last question asked was, what were the three movies?
Oh, what were the three movies? Okay, so Match 52 says Return to Gilligan's Island. And that's only one movie. Okay, so we got one movie.
There was not a movie specifically called Return to Gilligan's Island.
Okay. And that's pretty much all the guesses we have for movies. I don't see anything else as far as movies go.
I guess I'm just going to have to tell you guys. Number one was Rescue from Gilligan's Island. Number two was The Castaways on Gilligan's Island. And number three was the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island.
Hmm.
And to be perfectly honest with you, Rescue from Gilligan's Island I thought was, not bad, but the other two were just awful, especially the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island. I mean, maybe it was because by the fact that by the time they got to that, I was older and maybe was a little bit more discriminating. Oh,
I think that they were everywhere. Weren't the Harlem Globetrotters everywhere? Like I saw them in Snoopy, for example. Or not Snoopy. What do you call that? Scooby Doo.
I never got much into Scooby Doo, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they were everywhere.
I seem to remember that they were kind of all over the place in the 70s and early 80s.
They were popular.
I've always wanted to see them, by the way.
That would be cool. I heard they were really good, like just amazing.
Yeah, and I heard they do some unicycle stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I used to know a guy who was on kind of a similar thing that they did halftime entertainment shows and he did something to do with basketball and a unicycle in it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, but speaking of the movies, which character / actor or actress did not appear in the movie, so they had to get somebody else?
Oh, okay. So if you guys know the answer to that, put it in the chat. And while we are waiting, we'll go on to a gambling question.
Okay.
From Technics. What is your opinion of blackjack tables on Fremont Street going in March? So I guess
Do you understand what he's asking?
After March, after the lockdown, I assume he's asking, what are your opinion on the blackjack tables?
Oh, you mean like reopening the casinos last March? If that's what you're asking, do you think that's what he's asking?
I think that's what he's asking, yeah. But we're just guessing. We're just assuming.
I'm not an epidemiologist. Did Vegas open up too early, too late? Should we have shut down at all? I like to stick with what I know when I render an opinion. So I'm not going to say one about that. Yeah, so I'm just going to say no comment on that one.
Okay, well, let's move on to a better question that might be more answerable. Mm-hmm. Mary says, I practice Casino War on the Wizard of Oz online game. Mm-hmm. How can I play this exact game for real money?
Yeah, just go to a casino. Several casinos still have Casino War. It's at lots of internet casinos. I don't know that much about where it can be found outside of Vegas. I know surprisingly Macau had some tables of it. But yeah, it's out there. I can't name very many specific casinos.
Okay. Now,
it's not the best bet out there. I mean, it's a really fast-paced game. So I would recommend playing that one in moderation and never bet the tie. Terrible, like a 32% house edge.
Wow. Now, can people play for real money on your website? Because I know they could play the games on your website, but can you play for real money on your website?
Well, I mean, you could click on an ad and then play at an internet casino, but we absolutely don't book our own action.
Okay.
We are just an affiliate.
Sounds good. Let's see if we have any answers to those questions. Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant were famous in the mid-accent. Oh, they were just commenting on that. Okay.
Or their mid-Atlantic accents. It was taught in acting classes in the early 20th century.
Is there no ginger? Is that the answer?
I'm sorry?
No ginger?
Well, he's talking about real people. Well, when I don't want to try to my Katharine Hepburn accent, but I did not know that was a mid-Atlantic accent. So, I have no comment to that comment.
Okay.
So it looks like nobody. Oh, wait. Okay, now I get it. Mo the cat is right in his answer. The question was which actor did not appear in the movies, and that was Tina Louise, who played Ginger. So they had to get another actress. In fact, there were two of them to play the role of Ginger.
Okay, so Mo the
Very
cat.
good, Mo the cat.
Nice. Yeah. And then what is our next trivia question? And yes, Tony, this is the Gilligan's Island trivia night. Yes, it is.
Okay, here's a two-parter. What was the name of the boat? And part two is, shall we say the name of the boat was kind of an inside joke? And shall we say, what did the name of the boat refer to? And while the peanut gallery is chewing on that, let's go to a Wizard of Vegas question.
Okay.
So in season 1 of Star Trek The Next Generation, a boy appears to be about 9 years old, runs into Commander Riker while fleeing his calculus class, proclaiming, "I hate calculus." Do you think humanity could advance to the point that 9-year-olds would be taught calculus? I do. I think that in places like China and Japan, it's not unusual for everybody to study calculus that goes to high school. And it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of them, like the brightest kids, took it that young. Mm-hmm. Like in maybe a bad example, but in the Big Bang Theory, I'm pretty sure that Sheldon got to calculus by that age. So some people are just, shall we say, born gifted and work harder. And I think it's unrealistic to expect every kid to be that smart. But I would not say that scene was unrealistic. I think that was probably just a smart kid who got pushed hard.
And to add on to that answer as well, adults are the ones who came up with algebra, but sixth graders are now learning it in school. So I think that eventually, we can get to calculus at a young age. It's just one of those things where we have to work slowly on and build up towards.
And in my opinion, math could be taught a lot better. And I think if it was taught more properly and there were better teachers, then people would learn a lot more math, and you would see a lot more younger people taking calculus. Mm-hmm. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
If high school math teachers were paid more, I would probably be one right now. And that leads to another kind of ethical question: should a math teacher get paid more than a home economics teacher, all of the things being the same?
I think all teachers deserve a raise.
Okay, but what if there's a real shortage of math teachers?
Let me just say all teachers deserve the same amount. And the reason why a home economics teacher should have the same amount of money as a math teacher is because they teach how to cook in the kitchen. And I know from personal experience that fires in the kitchen are not a good thing. So someone definitely needed to teach me that when I was younger, and it just did not happen. So, yeah. Okay. So going on to the answer of your question, is the name of the ship the SS Minnow?
It is.
Nice.
But Minnow,
Mo the cat
does not refer. Yes, Mo the cat comes through again. So here's the story. Let me make sure I get the details right. Okay, so at the time, the head of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, at the time that Gilligan's Island came out, was Newton Minow. And he was kind of an intellectual snob. And he said that television was America's vast wasteland. And I'm sure he would especially say that about Gilligan's Island. So as kind of an inside joke, they named the boat the SS Minnow because of his snobbery about television and that remark he made about it being America's wasteland.
Nice. So they crashed his ship.
Yes, they crashed his ship too.
Oh, that's so funny.
Okay.
Cool. And then just real quick, a math test says, thank you so much for getting that Scooby Doo song stuck in my head. Scooby, Scooby Doo, where are you? Okay, now everyone has that stuck in their head. Okay, what is the next Gilligan's Island trivia question?
Okay. I see we're starting to run low on time.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my favorite episode, is when they made a musical out of a play because a big Hollywood producer got shipwrecked on the island. And he had like a telephone with him, like a cell phone, if these things existed at the time. And he said, "Oh, I can just make a phone call and we'll all get rescued." And they said, "Please do." And he said, "Nah, I kind of like it here for a while." And so he was just, enjoying his vacation on the island. And so the castaways came up with the scheme. Like, we've got to incentivize him to want to go back. And what if we gave him a great idea for a musical that he would be so excited about that he would want to go back to, I guess, to New York and make? So the question is, what story did they make a musical out of? Audience?
Okay.
While you guys are chewing on that, let me see if I have any more Wizard of Vegas questions.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Gilles asks, this Christmas, Santa gave me a copy of Michael Musante's Pai Gow Tiles book. In it, there's a funny story about you receiving a bizarre lesson in Chinese Pai Gow etiquette while playing at the Casino Lisboa in Macau at 3 o'clock in the morning. Can you tell us the story? And is this what can be expected when playing in Macau? Okay, so here's the story. I consider myself a Pai Gow Tiles expert. And as anyone who has played the game a lot, lots of times when Asian players play the game, they don't even look at their tiles. In fact, let me get a set right here and kind of show you what I'm talking about.
They feel.
Scooby-Doo, where are you? Pai Gow Tiles, where are you? I can't seem to find my tiles on short notice. Okay, but the tiles are like a domino. And you can feel how many dots there are and the configuration with just your hand. So lots of times Asian players don't even look at them. They feel them, and then they set them based on having never seen the face of the tiles. That's just fine. Doesn't bother me if you play that way, but I'm going to look at them because, I don't trust myself. I want to see them. So, okay, so I go to Macau, and surprisingly, Pai Gow is not that popular in Macau, but they did have it at the Lisboa. So I go in there, and it's really late at night, but I'm jet lagged, so I'm wide awake. And I sit down at a table all by myself, and I'm having a good time playing the way I play, looking at the tiles. And then a bunch of Asian players come and start playing. And I'm still playing the way I'm used to, just looking at the tiles and setting my hand. And they were doing the Asian thing of not looking at them and just feeling them. And when they saw that I was looking at the tiles, they were just horrified. Like, this is terribly unlucky. First of all, we've got this white guy at the table. And secondly, he's looking at the tiles. This is just terribly unlucky. And then they said in Chinese, in Cantonese, I didn't know the language, but you can tell by the tone of their voice, like, you're not allowed to look at the tiles here. You have to set them based on feel, is evidently what they said. So, so the dealer calls over the floorman, and there's some discussion there. And then the dealer says, you're not, how did he put it? Oh gosh. I'm trying to remember the details. I should have. He said something like that you're not allowed to touch the tiles or something like that. Or like you're not allowed to hold the tiles, something like that. And so like you're not allowed to like put them in your hand and touch them. So what I did is as I recall, I did something like I got like a chip. I got 2 chips and I used them something like to flip over the tiles so that I never touched them with my hands, and so that I could see what they are. And that only got these players even more angry. Like, I'm sure they were saying like, this is even worse. Now he's taking forever, And so they complained to the dealer. The dealer calls over the same floor man, and then it's explained to me, you can't do that. You cannot see the tiles at all. And so at that point, I was just like, okay, I'm done. I've had it. I'm leaving. Goodbye. So that's basically the story. And can you always expect that when playing Pai Gow in Macau? To be honest, I think that was the only time I played Pai Gow in Macau, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that more there because, I mean, I hate to stereotype, but let's be honest, this is true. Asian players are more superstitious than average, and Pai Gow tends to attract Asian players, and the superstitions run really deep in China. So it wouldn't surprise me if this happened, if I wasn't the only one that this happened to.
Okay.
So there's that story.
Okay, there you go.
I see that Todd Savard has the right answer, Hamlet.
Does Mo the Cat count because he said to be or not to be before Todd did?
Okay, one of the songs they did was da 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 da. Do not regret, stay out of debt, think twice, da 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 da. Anyway, I don't remember all the lyrics, but that got incorporated into and who knows, maybe that was the name of the musical, but it was based on the story of Hamlet. And I thought that was brilliant, is to take a classical play like Hamlet and make an episode of Gilligan's Island out of it. It was, I thought it was extremely funny. Anyway.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be, let's start to wrap this up. I see Moga the Cat says, how is Pickle? Pickle is good. He, I went skiing for 3 days since the last show, and he just threw a fit when I came back. Like, where have you been? I've been waiting for you for 3 days. And he was just like complaining at the top of his head for like 15 minutes, and you couldn't shut him up, and playing with him didn't help. He was like, no, I am still mad.
He wanted to voice his displeasure.
Yeah, I don't know if all parrots are like this, but he is high maintenance and not afraid to, express his emotions and feelings about things.
Pickles has spunk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He or she does. So, yeah.
Well, cool. When's the next time we're going to see you do a live stream?
Let's see here. My calendar's looking pretty open. How about January 21st?
Sounds good to me. 3 p.m., same bat time, same bat channel.
You got it.
Fantastic. Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you, Heather, for being my co-host, and thank you, audience, for showing up.
And thank you for the awesome questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them.
Yep, sorry we didn't get to all of them. So,
but join us on the next one on the 21st. Get here early, put your question in first, and we will get to those as soon as we can.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.